Gosh, so many mental health disorders, especially depression and anxiety, are associated with not having enough brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And it's probably not technically correct, but I often think about BDNF as being the fertilizer for the brain. So it's really essential um, for neurotransmission, so the communication in your brain, but also for nerve proliferation, development, everything really, just maintaining that ever so delicate balance of how the brain is structured and functioning. And ketone bodies, or being in nutritional ketosis, has been shown to raise or boost levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor as well.
Yeah. So many things that I mean we could get into there in regards to, and not to mention, I mean, you mentioned earlier about energy to the brain, and ketones in the form of beta hydroxybutyrate can breach the blood-brain barrier when glucose can't. I mean, and you mentioned earlier that the brain could quite literally be swimming in a sea of glucose, but unable to access that for energy.
Yeah.
Um, and you also made an important fact that, there are cells in the body that do need glucose. The erythrocyte red blood cell, the glutaminergic neurotransmitters in the brain, they still use GLUT4 transporters. So we do need glucose. Um, and the best way to allow us to do this, isn't it, is by blocking all those pathways that you mentioned, NLRP3 inflammasome, correcting the inflammation and insulin resistance and allowing the body and the brain to function the way that it should. But I mean, it's a minefield of information. And you mentioned, the kynurenine pathway, which is the tryptophan pathway, and so on and so forth. But in simplistic terms, I think, the way to look at ketones is that it lowers inflammation, corrects insulin resistance, and fuels the brain.
Yeah.
It's as well as everything else in the body. But and we haven't even mentioned and got into NAD plus to NADH and the electron transport chain. But so ketones are fantastic. So it's, and this is why we live, a ketogenic and carnivore based lifestyle, isn't it? To produce these ketones. Why would one? I mean, we mentioned grains or cereals and breads earlier in regards to the carbohydrate impact, but are there any other reasons why, wheat germ agglutinin, for example, could be problematic to mental health?
Oh, yeah. So wheat in particular, the protein component of it interacts with the gut lining. And so it opens up the tight junctions in our gut wall. So it gives you leaky gut or increased intestinal permeability.